And good morning. It is about dark 100, dark 30, whatever. Yeah, it's 5:38 in the morning. Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to my brothers and sisters who have served. May God walk with you. Add a few drops of water to this acrylic paint that comes out as a paste. Okay. Move these fellas out of the way. We're going to paint Miss Mary. Mix this up. We're going to paint some robes on here this morning. Then we're going to paint the face, some hair. There, that's good consistency. Alrighty, let's see if I can do this without messing it up. Haven't had anything to eat or any coffee yet. Pardon my gross thumb. Now, Mary and Joseph, from bulk of the stories that I have heard in the biblical account, they weren't royalty, they weren't well-to-do. They were very much peasant stock. So they would have simple clothes. So I'll just paint them up like this. And since this gives a little bit of a 3D effect here, I haven't carved these down to make them look perfectly human-like because you're not going to be viewing this nativity from all angles, typically speaking. But you don't want the wood to be shining through either. So carving and cutting out of the pieces is fun. Very relaxing. But I will say, I may not be the best painter around here, but it is very relaxing. Once we're done doing this, we'll glue them to the board, to the storyboard, if you will. And the coat doesn't have to be perfect. So now we'll go ahead and do Joseph. He's a working man. And remember, at the time of the Nativity, they had completed a journey. Well, I haven't done the mileage lookup on this, but from the northern part of Judea, a little town called Nazareth, all the way down to Bethlehem, which from all accounts, since they were traveling by foot, by mule, It took a good part of a week to get there. And in the dusty roads or pathways, they would have had a tad bit of dust on their clothing. So I will put just a little bit of a dry brush of some gray paint on them, just to indicate the road dust. So that when these are all done and put on the board, they will be showing reverence, praying over their child. Their child who was Son of God, the Creator. Which is why he refers to us as his children, because he was there in the creation. He was the Son of God, but he was there at the creation. If you go to, I believe it is John 1:1, it tells you. So that when they're all done, it will look like this here. You'll notice in here a little bit of that airbrush, or the dry brush, of some gray mixed in with them to signify the road dirt. And this is after she gave birth, because there's a little fellow there with his arms and legs kicking up and his belly and his head up there at the top. And I went with that kind of a mauve and ultramarine blue background in there to give it more of a dusk appearance instead of just being black like you see for dark time. Well, a lot of times in the scenes are like that. And there are times when you get it pitch black. But they're going to look good when I glue them all back in there, and it's going to be a nice little decoration for somebody. So I'm not going to show you the whole painting process, but just a little bit of it. Alright, let me get this water and brush it. I'm going to put some of this paint on here. This is the flesh tint. We'll see how well I go. We'll paint the hands and the face. The little bambino. start with the baby. I don't know if this was the color of his skin. Probably a little bit darker. Because the Jewish people at that time were close to the Arabic people. I'm sure there was ways you could tell physically the Arab from the Jew without getting too graphic. It's hard to tell if this flesh color is covering anything until it's dry. Usually takes a few coats. Getting this little profile out on the scroll saw was a little tricky. And oh yeah, for those of who know, I had a little table saw incident 3 weeks ago. And my right thumb was badly injured. But it is doing pretty well right now. Such that I'm actually painting without having a bandage on my thumb. Not an attempt to gross anybody out. If you are offended by this, my apologies. Not by what I'm painting, but because of my thumb, because it is kind of gross. Anyways, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Come on, there he is. Got a little bit of flesh tone on there. I don't know if you can tell. Once I put the straw in there, you'll notice. It becomes more apparent if it's on a wider area too. Come on, eyes, focus. That it's 5:30 in the blessed morning. I'm not really fully awake yet, but I know I needed to get this done while it was still quiet before we had TV and a whole bunch of other stuff going on in the background. Oh, I see my little buddies, the gnats, flying around in here. Okay, let's do her face. There's the Blessed Mom. we go. And let's do the earthly father of Jesus, Mr. Joseph. I'll even paint eye details in here. Basically, give him a dot for their eyes. As you can see, getting inside there between the hands and his chest, it's not necessarily an easy task. But you're not going to be seeing a lot of that head on. Okay, there we go, we got that. Now being they are Hebrews, and until they get really old like many of us, they don't have blonde hair or red hair, they got black hair. For the most part. So, and Mary, being a woman, their hair is generally longer than men's, because men have a tendency to others break off. So we'll give her some dark hair up here. And it tends to just fall around them. And give her a real nice head of hair. So because of that table size, and my career as a hand model comes to a screeching halt even before it started. There she goes. And let's do Mr. Joseph here. Joseph of Nazareth, not of Arimathea. That was a different Joseph. As you recall, Joseph of Arimathea wasn't a part of this story. Joseph of Arimathea is part of the Easter story. If I recall, I believe he might have been the one who offered the tomb up that Jesus was buried in after his crucifixion. Which I'll do something similar to this as we get closer to Easter. They need some eyes. Let me see if I can get a dab of paint on here without getting too big and blotchy. See if I can do it without using this brush. There we go. Little eye for you. And a little bit bigger eye because she is in awe. I just used a pencil point, dabbed it in a little bit of the paint, and because it was a lot bigger than the end of a paintbrush, and he's better than these because these things will have a tendency to squish all over and just do all sorts of things, you know. Okay, they are done. Let them dry. Now I need to paint some straw. Let's get baby Jesus back over here. I made a set of these along with a Trinity knot with a little bit of a Celtic twist to it. A while ago, put a picture up on Facebook. And a friend of mine, my mechanic before he sold his business out to his son, he does a fantastic job here in Dayton, by the way. They both have done a great job, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed with them for 20 years. Anyways, he saw them. Since he's retired, he became a deacon at his church. And as such, he teaches some classes. And goes by Deacon Brian. And he's got a class of 15 students. And he saw these, and he says, this is the perfect gift for them. My little doodles and the perfect gift. Which I am flattered to no end. But as such, I'm going to try to do the best I can for some handcrafted gifts for them. So, here we go. Hope I don't get a bunch of paint on here. Take the finished one out of the way. And here's one we just painted. I think it looks pretty nice, folks. Tell me. I may not have to put any gray because the differences in the shade of on the brown, how it went down there, kind of indicates the road dirt also. Anyways, Christmas is coming. Please keep Christ in Christmas, and God bless y'all. Bye.